Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the public statement hearing regarding Central Hudson's rate request. The hearing will begin shortly. Your line is muted. This is Judge Moreno. I just wanted, before we go on the record, which will be in just a few minutes, to explain briefly how the process will work to accommodate any person who wants to provide a comment or listen to the hearing in Spanish. We have an interpreter with us, and anyone who wishes to provide comment in Spanish or to listen to the comments in Spanish should call a separate number, which is 518-549-0500, and dial the access code 958-40632. And on that line, the interpreter will interpret English statements into Spanish and will also be available to interpret any statements offered in Spanish into English for the record in this WebEx. Again, that number is 518-549-0500, and the access code is 958-40632.
Buenas tardes a todos. Si usted me está escuchando en este momento, acaba de hablar la jueza Moreno explicando el proceso de cómo realizar su participación en español. En pantalla tenemos las instrucciones de cómo hacer eso. Si usted no puede ver la pantalla, le voy a dar instrucciones. Cualquier persona que desea participar en el procedimiento de declaración pública puede acceder a un intérprete, en este caso mi persona, en español, llamando al número 518-549-0500. Una vez más, el número es 518-549-0500. Luego deben de marcar el código de acceso, es 958-40632. De nuevo, su código de acceso será 958-40632. Seguido del signo numeral. En esta línea yo voy a poder proveerle la interpretación de la audiencia, así como también si todas aquellas personas que desean participar y dar su testimonio y ya debieron haberse registrado pueden hacerlo y nosotros vamos a interpretar su testimonio. Gracias.
And if you are calling into the other line to hear this hearing in Spanish, using that separate number, we ask that when you do join, that you mute your phone when you enter the meeting. And if you have registered, we will call out your name, and at that time, you would unmute your line and let the interpreter know that you were there and provide the statement.
Y hablando de este mismo tema de participación, si usted va a participar de nuevo y está llamando a la otra línea, le suplicamos que por favor al conectarse ponga su teléfono en silencio para poder mantener privacidad. Una vez llegue el momento de hacer los testimonios, se le va a dar la oportunidad a aquellos que se registraron llamándoles por su nombre. Inmediatamente usted activa su teléfono o su micrófono, declara al intérprete que está presente y va a dar su testimonio de que usted es la persona que se le está llamando por nombre para poder dar su testimonio y nosotros vamos a interpretar su testimonio.
Thank you. So again, just before we go on the record, for any person who would like to make a statement in Spanish today or to listen to the hearing in Spanish, the phone number that you should call is 518-549-0500, and the access code is 958-40632.
Bueno, y una vez más vamos a dar instrucciones para todas aquellas personas que están participando aquí en línea y deseen escuchar interpretación de la audiencia en español. Por favor, comuníquese al número en pantalla. Les voy a repetir el número. Dice, cualquier persona que desea participar en el procedimiento de declaración pública puede acceder a un intérprete en español llamando al 518-549-0500. Inmediatamente le va a pedir que ingrese el código de acceso y ese número es 958-40632, seguido del signo del numeral. Una vez más, el número a llamar para escuchar esto en español es 518-549-0500 con código de acceso 958-40632, seguido del signo numeral.
Great, thank you. And Mr. McLean, are you prepared to go on to the record?
Yes, Your Honor. We are on the record.
Thank you. I call cases 23E 0418 and 23G 0419, proceedings on motions of the Commission as to the rates, charges, rules, and regulations of Central Hudson Gas and Electric Corporation for electric and gas service. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We are here today for a public statement hearing that was noticed on August 18th of 2023. On July 31st, 2023, Central Hudson Gas and Electric Corporation, who I will refer to as Central Hudson, filed amendments to its electric and gas tariff schedules, proposing to increase its annual electric and gas delivery revenues effective July 1st, 2024. Central Hudson proposes to increase its electric delivery revenues by approximately $139.5 million, which is a 31.9% increase in base delivery revenues, or a 16.4% increase in total revenues. It also proposes to increase its natural gas delivery revenues by approximately $41.5 million, which is a 29.2% increase in base delivery revenues, or a 19% increase in total revenues. The actual bill impacts of these proposed changes on any particular customer class will vary based upon revenue allocation and rate design. Under New York State law, the Public Service Commission must consider a utility's proposal and may adopt it or reject it in whole or in part, or modify it. We're holding this hearing so that you can provide your comments on these proposals for the Commission's consideration. My name is Ashley Moreno, and I am an administrative law judge for the Department of Public Service. With me today is Administrative Law Judge James Costello, also from the department, and together we are responsible for presiding over the hearings in these cases and the development of the complete record in these proceedings. The Public Service Commission will decide what Central Hudson's terms and conditions of service will be. The Public Service Commission has 7 members, the chairperson, Rory Christian, and 6 commissioners, Diane Berman, James Alisi, Tracy Edwards, John Howard, David Valesky, and John Majori. And I see that we have Commissioner Majori here with us today. Commissioner, would you like to make any statements?
Thank you very much. I just wanted to thank everybody who turned out to participate in this process. It is a participatory process, and I try to sit in on as many public statement hearings as I can, because what folks say is often very important as we consider items that come before the Public Service Commission. I'd also highlight that it's especially useful when members of the public have data or factual information that's not already part of the record. And so that I and my fellow commissioners better understand how items affect people in real life. I'm also very interested in hearing people's personal stories. Again, I want to thank everybody for turning out. I am here to listen. So you're not going to hear from me again, but I very much look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you very much, Judge.
Thank you. So as I stated, the purpose of our hearing today is to provide you with an opportunity to tell the Commission your thoughts on Central Hudson's rate proposal. The statements that you make today will become part of the case record. We have a court reporter joining us who will prepare a transcript of the hearing, which will be included in the official record for this proceeding, so that your comments can be considered by all of the members of the Commission. When it is ready, the transcript will be available for view on the Department of Public Service website. This hearing is not an evidentiary hearing or a question and answer session, but really a forum to hear from you and hear your comments. And also, I would like to highlight that this is not the only opportunity for comment. If I could ask for the next slide to be advanced, please. If you did not register to speak at today's hearing, but you would like your views included in the record, there are a variety of other ways to comment that were listed in the public notice for today's event. For those of you who are participating electronically, those other ways to comment are also on your screen in both English and Spanish. You can do so by submitting comments on the department's website, by email, regular mail, or by phone. And regardless of how the comments are submitted, they will be given equal consideration. Comments may be submitted and will be considered throughout the case. If you have registered to make a statement, we ask that you please summarize any lengthy written statements orally and then submit the full written statement by email or mail. We do have a number of people registered to speak today, so we will ask that you try to stay within around 3 minutes to make your statement. So we do have people registered who are participating electronically, and we may also have participants by phone as well. In either case, make sure that you only have one audio input from one device. Otherwise, we may experience problems with feedback. I will call the persons that have registered one by one to speak. If someone is not available when I call them, I will continue with the next person and we'll come back to those people who are not available at the end. And for telephone participants, for speaking in English today, when I call out your name, I will ask that you press *3 on your phone so that we can recognize you and unmute your line. It might just take us a little while to locate you and unmute your line, so please be patient and do not start speaking until you hear a beep or are notified that your line has been unmuted. And for the folks who've registered electronically, after I call your name, we will unmute your line. Again, please be patient with us. It might just take us a moment. You should hear a tone and see that the microphone icon is no longer red. And again, if you've joined us electronically and you're using your phone line, just be reminded to unmute that as well. So we will begin by calling members of the public who have registered to speak, and then we will move on to any individual who is registered to speak that is also a party to the proceeding. As parties, you have greater privileges and opportunities to build the record in this proceeding, and so consequently we'll ask that you summarize any lengthy comments and submit them in writing. Please speak slowly and clearly so that the court reporter can accurately capture your statement for the record. When your line is unmuted, please state your name, and if you are speaking on behalf of an organization, please state the name of that organization. Once we can confirm that we can hear you, you can proceed to make your comments. And I'll just ask our interpreter to repeat on the WebEx line the next statement, please. For people who will be listening to or providing comments in Spanish, we have a separate number set up for that purpose. We would ask that you mute your phone when you enter the meeting. When we call out your name, you would unmute your line and let the interpreter know that you are there and provide your statement. The interpreter will interpret your statement into English in this WebEx so that the court reporter can include it in the record for consideration by the commission.
A todas aquellas personas que me están escuchando, las últimas instrucciones fueron dadas para todos los participantes que van a hacer su declaración en español en la línea telefónica. Por favor, de nuevo, se les pide que se identifiquen con su nombre. Cuando su nombre sea llamado, se les va a activar su micrófono y pueden hacerlo así. Aquellas personas que así lo deseen hacerlo por teléfono, tengan la gentileza de hacer sus declaraciones en forma resumida. Si usted creó una declaración por escrito, debe de ingresarla o archivarla, presentarla, toda la declaración por escrito. Solo se le van a dar 3 minutos para que usted pueda participar. Entonces, sumarice su declaración. Yo de la misma manera voy a estar tomando notas para poder traducir todo lo que usted me dijo a la comisión. En la pantalla tenemos también los números de teléfono. Si usted me está escuchando en WebEx, por favor, debe de marcar el número y escuchar. Si desea escuchar la interpretación en español, debe de marcar el número 518-549-0500 y luego ingresar el código de acceso 958-40632, seguido del signo numeral. Por favor, y inmediatamente su teléfono va a estar puesto en silencio, pero cuando vaya a participar, van a mencionar su nombre y debe de iniciar y identificarse. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, I will call our first speaker, who is Jonathan Jacobson. And if you have joined us by phone, if you could press *3. Jonathan Jacobson. Okay. I do see a raised hand. Perhaps Mr. Jacobson is with Mr. Eckley.
Eric Eckley, no, John Jacobson is not with me.
Oh,
but I am here.
Okay. Well, sir, we have a list of folks who have registered to speak, and thereafter we'll open it up. So, so we will open it up later if you would like to make a comment.
Thank you. I hope I'm able to stay long enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Edmund Roberts. Okay, I'm not seeing Mr. Roberts. Again, if you could press *3 on your phone. Okay, Kelsey Butterworth. And again, if you've called in, if you could press *3. Eric Wood. And your line has been unmuted, Mr. Wood.
Can you hear me, Your Honor?
Now we can, thank you.
Great. Good afternoon. My name is Eric Wood, and I'm the Hudson Valley Regional Coordinator for the New York Public Interest Research Group, NYPIRG. NYPIRG is a New York-based nonpartisan, not-for-profit research and advocacy organization. We appreciate the opportunity to comment on Central Hudson's significant proposed rate hikes. Central Hudson wants to raise rates for electricity customers by $139.5 million and by $41.5 million for the July 1st to 2023 to June 30th, 2025 rate year. They project that typical customers with gas and electric service will pay around $60 more per month, about evenly split between electric and gas bill increases. That's an enormous amount of money for Hudson Valley residents, especially those on fixed incomes, who are wage earners, who have families, in an area where the cost of living is already high. The impacts on low-income residents and members of disadvantaged communities are of particular concern. While Central Hudson claims it needs to raise rates to comply with the CLCPA, their track record does nothing to prove that they want to comply with the state's clean energy laws. For one example, Central Hudson has not publicly reported their progress. They have not made a strong enough effort to mitigate the effects of climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions, to promote efficiency and conservation methods, sustainability boost the use of renewable energy, nor keep the cost of energy affordable for consumers as they have proposed in recent years. The latest rate filing does not inspire confidence that Central Hudson will do enough to comply with the state climate policies or provide affordable electric and gas services. It's worth noting that New York's climate policies will drive more customers to investor-owned utilities like Central Hudson. Yet at every turn, Central Hudson looks to ratepayers to foot the bills for the infrastructure that will make it much more profitable in our increasingly electrified world. The Public Service Commission must scrutinize the rate request and make sure that Central Hudson is not asking ratepayers to foot the bill for spikes in cost for ignored or delayed maintenance or infrastructure that is primarily to benefit shareholders, not ratepayers or public policies. Central Hudson needs to be held accountable to ratepayers and overseen by a robust regulatory structure to enforce standards and protect consumers. The PSC needs to establish measurable benchmarks, incentives, and penalties to be met by Central Hudson. The public can't rely on the invisible hand of the market. Central Hudson should release an annual public report card on how they are making progress in greenhouse gas reduction goals, boosting energy efficiency. People are struggling to meet ends meet from the lingering economic impacts of the pandemic to the increasing cost of living. Soaring utility bills are a big part of that already. New York should be reducing these charges, as many states already are. On top of a global pandemic, we are currently facing a climate crisis, and Central Hudson needs to make larger leaps to invest in our energy system needs like renewable heat, wind, and solar, and battery storage, instead of continuing to raise our rates. Fortis, Central Hudson's parent company, reported over $1.3 billion in profits in 2022, according to Global Newswire, and Central Hudson's website reports they spent $1.8 million on environmental compliance expenditures. We ask that the Public Service Commission take these notes into consideration, make every effort to work with Central Hudson to lower New York's utilities bills, not increase them. Unless climate progress is affordable, we won't be able to meet our goals. Utilities stand to greatly profit from decarbonization and electrification. It is utilities' best interest to keep rates affordable at the same time they work to transition to fully electric economy.
Excuse me, Interpreter,
thanks to the Public Service Commission. Yep.
Excuse
You're all
Interpreter,
good. Thank you.
I need you to slow down the speed of the speech because he's unable to catch up with the interpretation. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Mr.
Okay.
Wood had finished his statement.
Yes, I want to thank you, the Public Service Commission, for the opportunity to share our preliminary thoughts on the proposed rate increases.
Thank you very much. And if we could just, as a reminder, as our interpreter stated, if you are making a statement today, if you could be mindful that we do have interpreters who are interpreting your statements for those that might be interested in hearing them in Spanish. So if I could ask that you try to keep a slower pace with your speech, that would be very appreciated. Our next speaker is Laura Yusupova. And your line has been unmuted.
Do you hear me?
Now we do. Thank you.
Okay. So hello, my name is Laura Yusupova. I'm from New Paltz, and the Central Hudson proposed hike plan stakes an individual's accessibility to resources that would be eliminated with the passing of this bill. This bill will increase 16% of electric bills and 19% of gas bills. Although to some it may not seem a lot, these rates will continue to increase here on out. For many, this increase in price is a loss of food on table, clothing for their child, or necessary school supplies. For people like me...
I apologize very much for interrupting. Could I ask you just to go a little bit slower?
Yes, I could do that for you.
Thank you so much.
So the bill will increase 16% of electric bills and 19% of gas bills. And although to some it may not seem a lot, these rates will continue to increase here on out. For many, this increase in price is loss of food on table, clothing their child, or necessary school supplies. For many people like me, who grew up in a lower class with a single mother working from paycheck to paycheck, this isn't just a simple increase in a utilities bill. A more sustainable alternative is using solar energy. This would give the residents guarantee that there will be no pike in their bills and as a healthier alternative to all involved, as there should be monthly payments towards this purchase of solar panels until ownership for long-term benefits. On the contrary, with utility power, there is a binding agent where the price can always change. There's little to no control when in use of utility power because as long as there's a dependency on the public to use power, the company will continuously charge at increasing rates. In sum, Central Hudson should not receive a rate increase, not only because there are more reasonable and sustainable measures, but because for many, it would not be affordable. This increase serves no justice to the public nor the environment. Therefore, vote against the Central Hudson rate increase for a more acceptable and overall greener lifestyle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker will be Shay Kessler. And your line has been unmuted.
Can you hear me okay?
Now we can, thank you.
Okay, thank you for providing the opportunity for me to speak today. My name is Shay Kessler. I live in Kingston and I attend graduate school while I work 2 jobs. So the hike in the fixed rate would make it absolutely unnecessarily difficult for people like myself to pay their bills. In between work and school, I work 50 hours a week. And between both the jobs, I make only about $2,000 a month and my rent is $1,200, leaving me with only $200 a week. My monthly expenses include my phone bill at $70, my car insurance $140, and my internet $55. I haven't even included my student loans. This barely leaves me with money for food, so I can't afford a $60 hike, and neither can many other citizens. Studies have shown that big companies make up about 70% of gas emissions and carbon emissions. So companies like Central Hudson have an obligation to relinquish some of their profits instead of asking everyday citizens who work paycheck to paycheck to give what little we have. We're already doing what's in our power to reduce our carbon footprint, such as recycling our bottles and all of our recyclable materials, and cutting costs on, driving and carpooling, but now it's Central Hudson's turn. If climate change continues to accelerate at this alarming rate, utility bills will no longer matter. And the least of our concerns will be how much our utility bill is, but whether we can even survive on this planet. The time is now for some serious action and for Central Hudson to play a significant role in the outcome of our global climate. Last Sunday at our End Fossil Fuels March, there were about 80,000 people marching to end fossil fuels and protect our climate. And I hope that you can consider the number of young people and the number of people who do care so much about doing what's right, but do not have the same kind of pull and power like Central Hudson does. And their track record is not entirely clean. So I would encourage them to use what profits they have to do what is within their power to make a difference that can prevent catastrophic events of our climate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Rosemary DeCruz. And I believe your line is now unmuted. And if you are speaking, we can't hear you yet.
Okay now?
Yes, there you go.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Rosemary DeCruz, and I want to clarify that I am speaking today as a resident of Poughkeepsie and Central Hudson customer, not in my capacity as party. I first want to thank the Public Service Commission for providing Spanish language access in this meeting. Even if there aren't Spanish speakers here today, the fact that you are making things accessible for this vital part of our community shows your commitment to public service. I am here at this hearing to strongly urge the Public Service Commission to deny Central Hudson's rate increase. We should not be perpetuating fossil fuel infrastructure in the midst of our life-threatening climate crisis, and this cannot be said enough about Central Hudson in particular, a company that has been riddled with issues and controversies for years. Central Hudson is not deserving of any rate increase whatsoever because they're exceptionally negligent and incompetent. An investigation by this Public Service Commission found that due to Central Hudson's own negligence, the broken billing system they rolled out resulted in over 8,000 customers being overbilled and thousands more who had months of payments drawn from their account without their consent. Though Central Hudson claims that they have remedied these issues, my conversations and my experience as a community advocate tell me differently. I have had dozens and dozens of conversations with neighbors who haven't had their billing issues resolved, can't afford to pay their bills, or literally can't even get Central Hudson on the phone to resolve the issue. I myself have even gotten excessive bills with no clear explanation. We should not be rewarding a company that cannot do the bare minimum of giving an accurate bill. If Central Hudson needs more money, I suggest they take it from the billions of dollars in profit that they proudly tout. Struggling people in our communities are sitting here wondering why Central Hudson is asking for more money when residential and non-residential arrears are totaling over $125 million. That's over $1 million, $100 million in bills that community members and small businesses already can't pay. But Central Hudson is owned by Canadian megacorporation Fortis, which is worth $58 billion. Why are we debating letting Central Hudson exploit funds from our community? We should not be rewarding utility monopolies that are incompetent, negligent, and playing with people's lives, all in the name of their bottom dollar. I am urging the PSC strongly to deny Central Hudson's rate increase to show that as a state, we refuse to put Central Hudson's profits over our people. Instead, Central Hudson should be forced to freeze their rates until they can get their act together and perform as a utility should. As a state, we should be moving towards publicly accountable utilities and no longer allow multi-billion-dollar corporations to exploit the vulnerable people of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Jamie Fannin or Jamie Fannin. And if you've, oh, I think your line is now unmuted.
Hello?
Hello, now we can hear you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone who's spoken and to the folks that are here for making the time to listen. I represent an organization called Celebrate 845. We exist, we are by and for marginalized working class Hudson Valley creatives, so artists. And as somebody who has grown up in the Hudson Valley and lived here my entire life, I've experienced a myriad of things through Central Hudson. And I want to voice that the proposed hike just can't, it can't happen. Like folks that are like within my community, they won't be able to afford it. They already can't. And it's not that they don't want to. It's not that they're spending money on other things. We're experiencing a housing crisis. So rents have gone up astronomically. We're experiencing inflation around the cost of food, the cost of transportation, a lack of transportation. So with this proposal, it's not that folks don't want to pay their bills, but they can't. They can't because wages haven't gone up and everything else has. So I'm really echoing a lot of what other folks have said at this point, but I don't expect Central Hudson to care about, you know, the most impacted members of our community. But I'm hoping that this, you know, this committee, the folks the folks listening here can maybe step in and use some of their power to stand up for these folks, because these are your neighbors. These, these might be your coworkers, these might be people that live near you, who need utilities and can't access them if this is how it's going to happen. So just want to say thanks again to everyone for making the time to tune in and to listen. The folks on the committee really appreciate your time, and thanks to the interpreter as well. Really grateful for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Our next speaker will be Thomas O'Connor. Thomas O'Connor, and if you've called in, if you could press *3 on your phone. Okay, our next speaker then will be Mi Inouye. I apologize if I've mispronounced that. M-I-E, last name I-N-O-U-Y-E. And again, if you've called in, please press *3. Okay. Jonathan Flynn. And again, if you've called in, if you could press *3. Melanie Crouch. And I believe your line has been unmuted.
Okay, thank you for letting me talk today. My name is Melanie Crouch. I live in Hyde Park, New York. I'm in a household with 2 people with disabilities, me and my autistic son. Last year, I reduced my household usage of electricity by over 1,000 kilowatt hours. Now, I'm going to give you approximate figures. My written statement will have the full accurate figures. My actual bill increased by over $50, even with the reduction in use of power. This year, and the supplement that I get every month to help since I have HEAP also reduced this year. This coming year, we're only supposed to be getting a 3.2% increase in our Social Security benefits, which for my household comes out to $64 a month. To achieve last year's decrease of 1,000 kilowatt hours, I had to reduce the use of my scooter to just going to doctor's appointments, meaning I am trapped in the house unless there's an emergency. Not using my O2 concentrator, meaning I could suffocate in my sleep. And not using my leg pumps, so my legs have gotten to the point that I almost can't stand and walk anymore. This year, because of the increase of over $50 a month, I had to stop using my nebulizer. I've had to stop taking certain of my medications, and certain of my son's special needs items are not being purchased anymore. If this increase happens, we will not, I have nowhere else to cut. And we will even suffer even further. I am not the only person in this situation. This is for people with disabilities across the board. I don't think an electric company or electric usage should be able to have multi-million-dollar profits when people like me can't even afford to breathe. If I die this winter, I will make sure that it's put on Central Hudson and other people that price gouge at this point. I cannot afford this rate increase, and I doubt anybody else that relies on a fixed income can either. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I did want to just pause for a second. Could you please advance to the last slide? Because I would like to highlight for anyone that's joined us today, if they are having trouble with their bills, there is assistance available also from the Department of Public Service in addition to contacting the utility. Could I ask, Sangeeth, are you able to advance the slide, please, to the last slide? And so I just wanted to say that the helpline number for assistance, for complaints or inquiries, if you have them about your bill, you can contact the Department of Public Service Consumer Assistance Line at 1-800-342-3377. Perfect. Okay, our next speaker is Giselle Martinez. And your line has been unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I thought I was on mute. Good afternoon. My name is Giselle Martinez. Today, I am speaking on behalf of my city council capacity. I am a council member for the city of Newburgh, and I'm also a state employee. I wanted to express my concern with the hikes. Personally, I get a lot of constituents, both from the state government and from my council capacity, that complain about their Central Hudson bills. And so an increase, a 16.4% increase for electric delivery services, or a 19% increase for natural gas delivery services is very concerning, especially when cities like Newburgh are predominantly working class families that, again, you have folks living paycheck to paycheck. And when people live in low income households, a lot of the time they have to sacrifice, whether it be food, whether it be other utilities that they need, or other necessities to have a basic living. And so I would really like to express my opposition for these hike increases, and again, to see if there are any other alternatives or solutions. I know I heard earlier people mentioning solar panels, which I am in big favor of, and again would like to ask the Public Service Commission to reject this rate hike proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker will be Daniel Atona. Daniel Atona, and if you've called in, if you could press *3. Okay. And your line has been unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
All right, thanks. I'll start my public comment. Thank you. My name is Daniel Atona, he, him. I live in the city of Poughkeepsie and organize all throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley. I work at For the Many as their political coordinator, and unfortunately, I am a Central Hudson customer. Last year, Central Hudson attempted to charge me almost $600 for gas and electric. This was about triple our usual bill. They blamed it on a computer glitch. I know many For the Many members were also affected by these billing errors as well. Now Central Hudson has the audacity to demand yet another round of rate hikes. On their website, Central Hudson lists their total 2022 electric and gas revenues as a little over $1 billion. Their proposed rate hikes would result in a 30% increase in their base delivery revenues. Central Hudson's profits and monopoly are guaranteed by the state. That is why they operate with impunity, without respect for their customers. I'd like to echo Mid-Hudson Valley DSA in their call for public power. The mass movement organized around the recently passed Build Public Renewables Act proves that New Yorkers are more interested in investing in a public utility like the New York Power Authority rather than a for-profit utility like Central Hudson. As climate change continues to worsen, its impact on our utility grid will continue to grow. There are much needed investments Central Hudson could be making, such as burying power lines. But as a for-profit company, they don't think that way. For-profit companies will only ever operate under the principle of short-term profit maximization. Their primary concern is enriching their CEO, Christopher Capone, and their shareholders. New Yorkers have to struggle every day to pay their bills. We struggle so they can profit. Does that sound fair to you? I'm calling on the Public Service Commission to reject the rate hikes in whole, and I'm calling on any New York State legislatures watching this hearing to bring Central Hudson under public control. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Patrick Pellicano. And your line has been unmuted.
Hello, thank you for taking my comment today. I'm calling as a Central Hudson customer. I have experienced some pretty chaotic billing throughout the past 3 years, I guess since they implemented their new billing system. But I'm also a huge critic of Central Hudson because their business practices seem to be disingenuous, and I don't think that calls for any conceivable reward to the extent that they're requesting. Their former CEO was making $8 million or more every year when he was asked to step down by elected leadership. Someone from the board took over who I imagine makes somewhere in the millions for his salary. Meanwhile, as previous speakers have stated, people all over the Hudson Valley can't even afford basic, basic rate increases, not to mention the chaotic billing that comes with Central Hudson's practices. I also get my energy through this organization called Common Energy. It's a New York State, I don't know if it's a subsidiary or what it is, but sort of an incentivized program where you can choose that your electric comes from solar or like, non-destructive or less destructive elements. And Central Hudson has been horrible in dealing with this state, organized group. They don't pass along information and it leads to chaos. And my bills are delayed for months. I have 2 bills now, one for $50, one for $1. And then in another month I had 3 bills. It's just absurd to try and keep track of what's supposed to go on. That's why I call for a need to democratize our energy system. We have no choice but to buy our energy from Central Hudson. And even though I'm trying to get it through different means, I'm still being stuck with their horrible practices. So I don't think they should be allowed to increase their rate, their rate hike, especially when the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, has said that no new fossil fuel production should happen, and yet they, they claim that they need to make more gas development happen. We don't live in a silo. Everything is interconnected. If we haven't realized that yet, then we're doomed. So yeah, for this tiny thing, please don't accept their rate hike because we need to face climate change as it's making our seasons chaotic and our lives a living hell. Thank you.
Thanks very much. We'll next hear from Eric Eckley. And Mr. Eckley, your line has been unmuted. Eric Eckley? And if you are speaking, we can't hear you. Mr. Eckley? Okay, we will circle back. Our next speaker will be Alicia Landis. And your line has been unmuted.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Alicia Landis, and I'm the Supervisor of Direct Services and Counsel for the Public Utility Law Project, or PULP, and I go by she, her pronouns. PULP is a 40-year-old nonprofit with a mission of educating, advocating, and litigating on behalf of New York State's low-income utility customers. PULP thanks the Department of Public Service for the opportunity to testify in relation to Central Hudson Gas and Electric's rate cases. In particular, thank you for providing the hearing notice in Spanish and providing interpretation support, which is a very important means providing access for Spanish speakers to learn about the case and have an opportunity to comment in this process. PULP is an active party in both cases, and we're planning to file expert testimony on November 21st. PULP has several concerns, a few of which we will address in today's hearing, and that will be expanded upon in our testimony. Central Hudson is asking for double-digit increases for its rate case. They're spinning it as $1 a day for each electric and gas, but for those that are both electric and gas customers, this would amount to a $60 increase a month. To put this into perspective, PULP pulled financial statistics from the New York State Community Action Association's 2023 Poverty Report, the United Way's Alice Project, and the New York State Department of Education County Statistics. In Ulster County, 49% of students in Ulster County are eligible for free or reduced lunch. 10% of households live in poverty, with 7.6% of people over the age of 65 and 15.9% of children in the county living in poverty. In Dutchess County, 10% of households live in poverty. The unemployment rate is 13.3% in the county, and 39% of students are eligible for free or reduced lunch. In Greene County, 39.1% of families with a female head of household with children present live in poverty, and the county has an unemployment rate of 14.1%. The fact of the matter is that customers in Central Hudson's service territory cannot currently afford their utility bills, while Central Hudson is asking for an increase in rates plus a 9.8% ROE that they are portraying as the low end of what they could potentially ask for. PULP is also concerned about weather protections. As climate change continues, we find it important that each utility company in the state have extreme heat and cold weather protections for their customers. We will be expanding upon this in our testimony. PULP is also interested in domestic violence protections. We're eager to learn more about the company's policies and training materials related to survivors. Everyday ratepayers are already struggling with bills that are unaffordable. PULP asks the Commission to scrutinize Central Hudson's rate requests to make sure that the rates customers are paying are just and reasonable, affordable, and fair. Thank you for giving PULP the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you very much. That concludes the list that we have. Oh, there was a number of individuals who were not available when I called on them. So we'll go back through that list and see if anyone is now available. We'll start with Jonathan Jacobson. And I do not see Jonathan Jacobson. Do we have, if you've called in by phone, if you could press *3. And I see we have a number of hands raised, and just to let those folks know, after we go through the list of registered folks, I will open it up, so we will get to you at that point. Edmund Roberts. And if you've called in, if you could press *3, Edmund Roberts. Kelsey Butterworth. And again, if you've called in, if you could press *3. Thomas O'Connor. And again, if you've called in, if you could press *3, Thomas O'Connor. May Enu. And if you've called in, if you could press *3. And Jonathan Flynn. And again, if you've called in, if you could press *3. Okay, I do not see those individuals who are available at the moment. So what I will do is I will open it up for anyone who is listening in today who would like to make a statement but has not registered to speak. If you would like to make a statement this afternoon, if you are participating electronically, if you can use the raise hand function. And if you are participating by phone and would like to make a statement, if you could press *3 on your telephone, that will allow us to understand that you'd like to make a comment. And with that, I see a number of hands raised. I'll just also pause and say if there is anyone who is listening in on the other line in Spanish, if you would like to make a statement, please just take a moment and unmute your line to advise the interpreter that you would like to make a statement. And I would just ask that if our interpreter, if you have any folks who would like to make a statement, if you could please use the raise hand function for yourself, and then we will move to you to hear their statement.
Excuse me, interpreter, you honor just a friendly reminder to the speaker to please slow the speed of the speech. And at the moment, we don't have no Spanish comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the first speaker we have is Clark Goodrich. And as our interpreter indicated, if I could just ask all of the speakers to try to slow their pace, that would be much appreciated. And Clark Goodrich, your line has been unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Thank you.
All right. My name is Clark Goodrich. Good afternoon. Thank you for holding these meetings. The PSC in Central Hudson has to do a much better job controlling Central Hudson's excessive delivery and energy supply rates if we are to use electric in order to have affordable electric power in the Hudson Valley as our only source of energy to fight climate change here in the Hudson Valley in the future. My main complaint is comparing Central Hudson proposed rates are not competitive with other power companies in upstate New York and other states. The combined delivery rate and energy supply rates would be double the cost of electricity compared to the state of Florida, SECO Energy. Also and that's double the rate, double the bill for Central Hudson. Also during the winter months, Central Hudson energy supply rates are significantly higher than all the other upstate New York power companies. Compared to Syracuse, for example, Central Hudson supply rate is 75% higher. This is not competitive. My second complaint with Central Hudson today is the electric delivery percent increase, which they document in the newspapers, is not correct. It's not even close. In the newspaper, Central Hudson has asked a 16% increase in delivery rate. I'll skip the math here, but I've done the math. At our personal residence, which we use 600 kilowatt hours per month, some of that's for heat, our residential electric delivery charge, just a delivery charge, would increase 35%, not 16%. I would ask the PSC to enforce new requirements on the way the power companies report rate increases to be more accurate and honest for basic residential electric customers that use electricity for heat and those that do not use electricity for heat, because they're going to see a significant difference in the percent increase. My third complaint is the delivery rate per kilowatt hour was 99.2 cents per kilowatt in June of 2022, with a proposed rate of 14.7 cents per kilowatt hour. That would be an increase of 60% in only 2 years. This seems extremely high and significantly higher than increases from other electric power companies in upstate New York over the same time period. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, our next speaker will be Assemblyman Anil Stefan. And your line.
Hello, everyone.
Hi there, we can hear you now.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I apologize for not pre-registering. As always, I thank you and your team over at the Public Service Commission for your partnership and support here. Much like the sentiments I relayed in my letter earlier this month, or last month rather, I'd just like to express those same sentiments here today. So I'm here to express my opposition to Central Hudson's proposed rate increase. As a representative of the residents of Dutchess County, I've witnessed firsthand the direct and negative impact that the rising cost of energy, coupled with Central Hudson's faulty billing practices, and the CLCPA has had on our community. The well-being of our residents is paramount, and I urge the Public Service Commission to carefully consider the potential implications of approving such a substantial rate increase. Many of our community members are already facing financial challenges and uncertainties, and this rate hike could exacerbate any of the difficulties they're currently going through. I request that the Commission thoroughly reviews the rate case and considers the hardships it may impose on our residents. Ensuring fair and just utility rates is vital to safeguarding the interests of our community and preserving the quality of life here in New York State, especially the Hudson Valley. So as always, I thank you all for your time and your effort here. And on behalf of our community, please consider this to be my strong opposition to a rate increase. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Charles Coing. And I do not see, okay. Our next speaker will be a call-in user. I'm going to unmute your line now, and your line has been unmuted. Hopefully you heard a beep on your end.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Dane Pascacello, Chief of Staff for State Senator Rob Rollison. Senator Rollison had pre-registered, but he had to leave to go to another event. So I will be reading this statement into the record on his behalf. I'd like to begin by thanking the Public Service Commission for holding this initial series of public statement hearings. Public input, such as the comments offered today, will be critical in determining the reasonableness of this proposed rate hike. Thank you also to Judges Costello and Moreno for hearing my testimony and dispassionately presiding over this important matter of public policy. My district in the Hudson Valley faces an affordability crisis. Costs associated with housing, childcare, groceries, and energy have all increased. According to the latest Siena Research Institute poll, more than 80% of New York's voters consider the rising cost of living to be a major problem. My constituents shouldn't have to choose between a doctor's visit and feeding a family of 4, between lighting and heating their home and filling up the gas tank to get to work. Central Hudson's proposed rate increases of 16% on the average residential electric bill and 19% on the average natural gas bill to take effect in summer of 2024 is unacceptable. I believe that this rate hike would be too much, too fast for our Hudson Valley homeowners and residents. Therefore, I respectfully request that the Commission reject the proposed increase amount. It is my opinion that stakeholders working with local partners can craft a better solution which meets the needs of our regions and states' growing energy demands while protecting ratepayers who are already squeezed by inflation and higher costs nearly everywhere else. To that end, I have spoken with Central Hudson's leadership on several occasions to express my concerns and work collaboratively toward a better outcome. I have also visited with and spoken to NYSO, the Albany area nonprofit responsible for operating our state's electric grid. Both have relayed their concerns that the structural pressures being placed on energy supply thanks to the rushed Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act would lead to higher costs in our state's middle class. I've met with a local small business selling natural gas-powered fireplaces that risk loss of its current product line and related jobs thanks to Albany's ill-considered natural gas ban. You cannot manage what you can't measure. I do not believe those in charge of New York's energy policy have reckoned with the dramatic immediate costs associated with its long-term promises. It's time to pause and responsibly assess the consequences before we leave our state's middle class behind. One suggestion I will offer today to ease the burden of rising energy costs on families and individuals is to expand the PSC's Energy Affordability Program, financial relief to more New Yorkers. As you know, the EAP is currently pegged to federal poverty level and provides a monthly discount on utility bills. My district office has completed or engaged over 100 cases of utility billing assistance since I entered the state Senate in January. The majority of this casework involves middle-income New Yorkers unable to pay their electricity and heating bills. I am calling on the PSC to streamline the enrollment process and make these discounts available to more of our middle-income residents who are struggling with month-to-month payments. In closing, let me say that I am relieved that the Commission has heeded our call to provide in-person public comment hearings to everyday New Yorkers concerned about higher energy prices. I look forward to joining them as we continue this critical conversation together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And could I just ask you the favor, could you please spell your name and the senators just so we have it clear for the record?
State Senator Rob, R-O-B, Rollison, R-O-L-I-S-O-N. My name is Dane, D-A-I-N, Pascocello, P as in Peter, A-S-C-O-C-E-L-L-O.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your comments. Our next speaker is also a call-in user. We will unmute your line. Hopefully you will hear a beep. And your line is...
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. If you could please just state your name and then proceed to make your statement.
Yes, my name is Charles Hoeing. I live in Kingston, New York, and I am also, unfortunately, a Central Hudson customer. I agree with many of the things that have been said here. One of the things I'd like to bring up is historical. Many years ago, when the cost of gas and diesel went well over $5 a gallon, many companies had to impose rate hikes due to increased fuel cost. Central Hudson was given such a cost increase due to enhanced fuel costs. Somewhat understandable at the time. However, when the fuel costs came back down, they did not drop their bill back down. So I think the customers are entitled to a refund of that for that period. More recently after that, when the nuclear station closed, Central Hudson again raised the rates, inciting increased demand. Simultaneously, New York State was pushing for its residents to move to solar and helping them in many ways. Increasing due to increased demand, I think it's a definition of price gouging. I've talked to many people who have fully gone over to solar and can prove that they're actually generating more electricity than they're using. However, Central Hudson continued to bill them. Between the move to solar and, as you've already heard on this call, many people have voluntarily reduced their utility usage. How can they state there's an increased demand, yet they still got a substantial increase? More recently, Central Hudson pushed out a faulty financial package that caused errors in billing. Mistakes happen in programming, okay. However, I find it very coincidental that after that, after whatever potential profits they may have lost and the expenses they had to expend using their legal teams to defend themselves against the investigation being brought back by our local representatives, suddenly now they need a substantial price increase. I think that price increase is to cover what they feel was lost profits and to cover their legal expenses. However, we had also, the taxpayers of the state, had to pay for that investigation. So they have gotten multiple price increases already, whether or not they were deserved. I don't think so. No refund when those situations were cleared. Now, with all this in mind, I really have to begin to ask for a review of the reasoning as to why Central Hudson gets such carte blanche on their rate increases. The State Commission needs to review the policies and what's acceptable. At this point, I really think that there is a potential for criminal action to be brought against members of Central Hudson for these efforts. That's all.
Thank you very much for your statement. We appreciate it. Okay, our next speaker will be John Rath. And your line has been unmuted.
Your Honor, can you hear me?
We can now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm a Central Hudson customer in Poughkeepsie. I live in a very small 350 square foot apartment. And friends will tell you I'm probably one of the most conservative people they know. I turn off my power cords at night. I use a solar oven in the summer, so I'm cooking with the sun and not my gas. And I do everything to keep my bills low. I've weathered the inconsistencies of the billing process that happened during COVID and afterwards, and I think they're straightened out, although I will tell you it was very, very frustrating trying to work through those. And if I'm reading my statements correctly, and also the notice that came in the bill about the rate increases, my rates are going to more than double on the delivery charges. So it's not a 16% increase. It's more than doubling. So there's no reward for my other than psychological for my conservation. The other thing, while I'm not an expert in utility finances and things, I have a sense that there's a big concern for the rating agencies, and I get a little bit of that. But in every other corporation that doesn't perform up to snuff, the shareholders and the company have to pay a penalty. I guess I don't see that happening when you're getting the kind of rate increases or considering the kind of rate increases that Central Hudson is asking for. Why shouldn't the stakeholders and the company, the shareholders and the company pay a penalty for lack of performance? And I do appreciate the opportunity to comment.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Our next speaker will be Eric Eckley. And your line has been unmuted.
Hi, Your Honor. Thank you very much. Yeah, my name is Eric Eckley. I live in East Fishkill in Dutchess County, New York. I mean, electric rates are high now, right? People are having a hard time paying their bills now. Fortius, Central Hudson's parent company, made $1.2 billion in profits after their expenses in 2021. And they increased their profits to $1.3 billion in 2022. So they're doing a great job for shareholders just the way things are. There's no reason to raise rates. The company's extremely profitable. And, as other people have said on the call, like Central Hudson has not been doing a great job, managing, people's accounts. It's caused all kinds of stress to people. People have probably paid way too much in many cases. And, arguing that they need to make a 16% increase in rates when the company is also extremely profitable is ridiculous. Nobody gets a 16% raise. Right now inflation's 3.7%. So if they ask for a 3.7% increase, like that might even be reasonable, but 16%, that's like a slap in the face to all of us that have to pay these bills. Where I work, we got a 3.5% raise for next year. I know other people that work in the same industry. I work for a local college, and their college is offering them a 2.5% raise next year. And inflation's 3.5% right now. So like the economy does not support this, raise that Central Hudson wants. It's ridiculous. There's not really a lot left to say. It's going to hurt the citizens of the Hudson Valley. People are going to lose their homes. Like the number one way people lose their homes is by not being able to pay their utility bills. They fall behind in their water bill or some other bill, and eventually they lose their home over it. And that's going to happen if you let this take place. It's going to cripple our local economy and it's going to cripple small business. It's a very bad, it's a very bad time for this. I don't think there's any time that Central Hudson or most companies that are like utility companies, supplying things that people desperately need to live, heat, light. I mean, people can't live without this stuff. And 16% increase is just, it's abusive and it's unnecessary and they don't deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I believe that I do not see any further members of the public who have indicated that they would like to make a statement, but I will open it up once again. If you are listening in today and you would like to make a statement, we're very happy to hear it. If you are participating electronically, if you could use the raise hand function. And if you are calling in, if you could press *3 on your telephone, we'd be happy to hear your comments. Also, if you are participating on our other phone line in Spanish, if you would like to make a statement, please let the interpreter know, and we will ask the interpreter if you could please use the raise hand function so that we know whether you have any folks who would like to make a statement on the record. And I do see we have a couple of individuals who would like to make statements. They're both call-in users. So I have unmuted your line. Hopefully you heard a beep.
I did. Hi. My name is Laura Keesby. I am a town of Poughkeepsie resident, but I am also the executive director for a local nonprofit in the city of Poughkeepsie, both Central Hudson, both of those are supplied by Central Hudson. I'm going to be brief. I missed the beginning of this call, so I apologize if some of this stuff's been repeated, but I think my biggest concern is that the billing errors were obviously very detrimental, especially to someone like myself dealing with a nonprofit that's on a budget. I have my in-laws who are in Hyde Park who are also on Central Hudson who are seniors on a fixed income, and I'm, to be quite frank, quite worried about how they're going to heat their home this winter. And have basic needs, basic human needs. This area has been extremely difficult to survive in. I, make a decent salary, I work really hard for a living. My husband works hard for a living. And we are actually getting to the point where we're contemplating moving out of the state of New York because between food and Central Hudson and all the other inflation and gentrification things that we're dealing with now in the Dutchess County area, it has just made it almost impossible to live here anymore, which is, it's sad. So when I saw double-digit increases for Central Hudson, I don't even know, like, there are really no words for it. I mean, we understand inflation, we understand there are going to be increases, but when you see double-digit increases from a company that can't even send a correct bill to the people that are using their services, it should raise awareness and make everybody a little bit nervous. I actually thought that situation had been resolved. And just yesterday, I'm dealing with another quirky billing situation. It's just never ending. There's always just issues being dealt with. And then I think my last concern that I want to address is the state of New York is offering so many benefits for, customers to increase energy efficiency. You have, things for programmable T-stats and all these heat pump options and things like that. But my concern is why even bother taking advantage of those incentives when the savings isn't going to be met with the increases on the Central Hudson bill. So I think those would be my concerns, both as just a, owner of a business and also a resident.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your comments. And I believe, and I'll open up again, if you are participating electronically today and you would like to make a statement, if you can use the raise hand function so that we can identify you and unmute your line. If you have called in and would like to make a statement, if you could press *3. And I think we have another call-in user, and your line has been unmuted.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes. My name is Kathy Albert, and I live in Stone Ridge, New York. And I thought I registered yesterday before 4:30. I'm sure I made that phone call. Somehow it didn't get through to you. So I'm glad to speak with you now. I am a retired person, and I have a handicap, and I'm living on a fixed income. And I was alarmed to read that Central Hudson believes that their inadequacy has not caused a financial hardship on anyone. However, it certainly has, as you can tell from all the previous callers this afternoon. I've been a customer of Central Hudson since 1967. I've never been delinquent with my payments. I live alone. I don't have company. All my relatives live 300 miles away. I do laundry about once a month. I save it all up and do it once. All my appliances are Energy Star. The 8, and I don't change it until spring. I've worn 3 and 4 layers to fight off the cold. I've had numerous power outages, 2 within the past week, in fact. There's never a reimbursement for loss of service, and yet this area loses their service on a regular basis. One winter in the past 10 years, I went dark for 2 weeks. No reimbursement or loss for service. In 2021, I was hospitalized and I was put in a nursing home for 5 months. And while I was gone, nobody lived in my house. It sat empty the whole time until I was released from the nursing home. And the amount of bills that came while I was in a nursing home and nobody was here amounted to $1,442.52. I have met with representatives once, and I've talked to representatives on the phone, and I never get anywhere. I also read that they are supposed to stop using estimated readings, and yet, as of 3 days ago, when I got my most recent bill, they are still using estimated billing. Let's see, I have some notes here that I'm reading off of. I have never seen a meter reader. When I met with the lady from Central Hudson, she said that it's the delivery rate is what was pushing up my bill. And however, there was no way to fix the delivery rate. And I believe that Central Hudson should not increase their rates until all of us customers are paid for all the overage that they owe us. sorry that I have to report such bad news. I don't like doing this, but I'm still waiting for a reimbursement for my overpaid amounts. They seem to pass the buck to the delivery charge, which they claim not to be in charge of. And I believe the rate increase is a slap in the face to those of us who have suffered with Central Hudson since 2020. A few of the overage charges have been $509, $487, $842, $779, $536, $525, $750, $781, $622, $592. I live alone. I'm frugal with my electric usage. I remember the campaign, save a watt, turn off lights when you're not in that room, and so forth. And I have been a proponent of that ever since. However, this has really got a lot of people down and out, and I hope you certainly can help us. And I appreciate you taking the time to hear my concerns. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your comments today. And I know that you mentioned that you've had some trouble reaching Central Hudson, and I just wanted to ask that the last slide be displayed if possible. That has some information on it. So if you are having trouble with your bill and you've not been able to resolve it with Central Hudson, consumers are more than welcome to also contact the Department of Public Service Consumer Assistance Line. And that number is 1-800-342-3377. And just again, the helpline number for complaints and inquiries, also perhaps to help you resolve billing issues. You can reach the Department of Public Service Consumer Assistance Line at 1-800-342-3377. And there are staff members who are available between 8:30 a.m. and 4:00 p.m. to help with any inquiries that you might have. Okay, I don't see any more folks who are indicating that they would like to make a statement, but I will open it up again. If you are participating electronically and you would like to make a statement, you can use the raise hand function. And if you have called in, you can press *3 on your telephone, and that will alert us that you'd like to make a statement. If you are on our other phone line listening in Spanish, if you would like to make a statement for the record, please let the interpreter know, and they would be happy to help interpret your statement into English so we can capture it for the record. And if I could just ask either Lucy or Isaias if you're able just to indicate whether anyone would like to make a statement on the other line.
Hello, Your Honor. This is Miss Lucy. No, I don't see nobody make a claim to want to make a comment.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And if I could just ask Esmond or Sangeetha, are you able, my understanding is we have no further members of the public who would like to make a statement, who have a hand raised. Is that your same understanding?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm not seeing any other hands raised.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, with that then, I would just like to remind members of the public that they may submit public comments throughout this case by the other means that were described earlier and are in the notice of the public statement hearing that was issued on August 18, 2023. For those of you participating electronically, those other ways to comment are also available on your screen. We will be holding some additional public statement hearings. There will be another virtual public statement hearing this evening at 5 o'clock, and we will be holding in-person public statement hearings in the future, and a notice that includes the locations, dates, and times will also be issued in the near future. So with that, Judge Costello and I would like to thank you very much for your participation and for your comments this afternoon. We appreciate hearing from you. Also, our thanks to Commissioner Maggiore for being present, as well as our Consumer Services offices for administering the session, our court reporter, and thanks very much as well to our interpreters. So with that, please have a good afternoon. Our hearing is now concluded. We'll go off the record.
Thank you. Correct, John.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.